remember that they're changing my voice. In this video, which I'm going to do in two parts, right? Part 1 and then another video I'll do part 2 where I go over Luke 12. I'm going to show you definitively with Luke 12:49 through 51, Matthew 3:12, Matthew 10, Mark 14:62, Matthew 26:63, and some psalms about fire and clouds. Okay, I'm going to show you definitively that the Jesus that you grew up believing was Jesus, right? Maybe it was the offspring of a Jew. Maybe it was, a gay white image of Jesus. Maybe it's a Nordic Jesus, or maybe you think that Jesus comes in an airplane in a cloud or literally on a cloud. Okay, I'm going to prove definitively that that is not Jesus. That in fact, the top martial artist ever, which is me, is Jesus. I'll prove it definitively to the point where if you don't know that I'm right, you must be delusional, period. For those of you, if this is your first video of mine and you saw it because of the Gangstalking label, you might be like, wow, okay, this ought to be good. Well, bear with me. I'll prove it definitively. First of all, okay, we see in Luke 12:49, Jesus says, I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. Now, some of you say, wow, I never heard that. I heard, him saying he came to bring a sword, right? And we'll get to that. He did say that as well in the Bible. It says, I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. So Jesus as a character in the story is saying this. And I'm the idea that he's superimposed on. Bear with me. New Living Translation, I have come to set the world on fire, and I wish it were already burning. And we see in Isaiah 24, the earth falls, never to rise again. We see in Isaiah 30 something, like 33 or something, it says that the earth is going to be completely destroyed. That's it, done. It falls never to rise again, completely destroyed. We'll see in Psalm 104, okay, that the earth is set. See, God set the earth on its foundation, Psalm 104:5. Okay, it can never be moved. So the earth that's here is sinking and going to be completely destroyed. And Jesus said heaven and earth will pass away. It passes away into the realm of the dead, and a new heaven for the righteous emerges. So that reconciles that definitively, and there's no other way to interpret it with any sense of logic, with any justice, any righteousness, any logic. That has to be how it's interpreted. Okay? So again, the earth in Isaiah 24 says to sink, never to rise again. In Isaiah 30 something, it says the earth will be completely destroyed. So here we have in Luke 12:49, English Standard Version, I came to cast fire on the earth, and would that it were already kindled. Berean Standard Bible, I came to ignite a fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. So maybe it was a typo on Bible Hub or something, but that's what the English Standard Version said. So he came to ignite a fire, came to cast a fire, came to bring fire on the earth, came to set a fire. So these are the various translations. What it's getting at is he came to bring a spiritual fire to the earth. And you see in Hebrews, the Lord is a consuming fire. In Jeremiah, wickedness burns like a fire. Okay, you see in Psalm 104:4, he makes flames of fire his servants, right? He makes the winds his messengers and flames of fire his servants. So it is definitively talking about it in a metaphorical way. So verse 50, but I have a baptism to undergo, and what constraint I am under until it is completed. So you see, you think that, oh, Jesus is the peacemaker, the Prince of Peace, and that he's not here to start war, but he's here to start war. It's more than just a sword to divide, because a lot of you heard the people say, he says he came to bring a sword. You say, well, yeah, it's a sword to bring division. But that is when Luke corrects that misconception about Matthew, where he says that what Jesus had said was, but I have a baptism to undergo, and what constraint I'm under until it's completed. Then he says in verse 51, do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division, right? Division between what, right? The tares and the wheat, right? The weeds and the vine, right? The people who are going to be thrown into the fire of hell, who are going to remain on earth reproducing, who died outside the divine order, people who are going to be separated away from the new heaven and the new earth in the spiritual realm, and those who keep living after I die. There's no other way to look at this. Now here's another one. This one's very shocking. When I first came across this, I was very shocked. Okay, Matthew 3:12, where it says, his winnowing fork is in hand, and he will clear his threshing floor, gathering his wheat into the barn and burning up the chaff with unquenchable fire. We'll get into Matthew 3 some more, where John the Baptist said that Jesus has come to baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire, right? Those who can dwell in the fire and pass through the fire and get into the realm of heaven. Okay, so God is a fire that you must pass through to join him. But wickedness burns like a fire, so those who are wicked will be burned by the fire. Those who are righteous will have the armor of God and pass through the fire. Okay, I suggest you watch this 3 or 4 times. This is, and you'll see that I'm right. Okay, it's a bit confusing, but take notes, write it down. It's made confusing on purpose. It's a long story why that is. So Matthew 10 is where he says, I came to bring a sword, and we'll get into that with Luke 12 in the next video. Okay. So, when we get to Mark 14:62, this part is very key. When they say, if you're Jesus, come back, why aren't you on a cloud? Listen carefully, and I'll answer that question for you. There's answers for why I don't walk on water literally. There's answers for why I don't turn water into wine literally. Listen carefully, and you'll see why I'm right. Mark 14:62, I am, said Jesus, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. So they had said to him, tell us if you're really the Son of God. And Mark said, that's what he had said. New Living Translation, I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated in the place of power at God's right hand and coming on the clouds of heaven. So in I want to say it's Corinthians 4:20 or something like this, where it says the kingdom of heaven is not a matter of talk, but of power. And there's an order. And he says, you will see the Son of Man seated in the place of power at God's right hand and coming on the clouds of heaven. Now, what are these clouds of heaven? The single most important explanation that I have found in my research for what the clouds are lies in Isaiah 30 through 33. Again, Isaiah 30 to 33. Okay? I have it even written in my car. I'm reading this from my car right now. I have it taped to my car. It's so important. It says, let's give you some background into it. We'll start with Isaiah 28 and 27 or so. It says, see, the name of the Lord comes from afar with burning anger and dense clouds of smoke. See, there's clouds of smoke. His lips are full of wrath, and his tongue is a consuming fire, right? The tongue can stand for the actions. Actions speak louder than words, right? That's another way to speak. His breath is like a rushing torrent, rising up to the neck. He shakes the nations in the sieve of destruction. Okay? He places in the jaws of the peoples a bit that leads them astray. So this goes back to Satan, where he's in the flames and so on and so forth. He's with the people in the depictions in the flames who cannot stand the flames of God's fire in the spiritual realm. So they're spiritually burning, and then when their flesh dies, they get sent to eternal punishment. Okay? So you see how it's clouds of smoke. They're coming from his lips. Now, this part is key here, right? So Satan leads the world astray. We see that in Revelation. Satan leads the world astray. It says Babylon's spell leads every nation astray, leads the world astray. Okay, so that's also connected to Revelation. The bit, the bit is like, the temptation that leads them astray. It's like them feeling addicted to their paths they're on, leading them astray. The magic spell, psychology, the psychological construct, theater arts, propaganda, erotic desire, you name it, temptation. Okay, now listen carefully. This is key here. This part is when it gets core, and everyone but me has this wrong. And this is very important that you understand this, and you're not going to truly understand it unless you come into the divine order and obey God through me. And you'll see what I mean shortly. Verse 30. The Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice. Remember, they're changing my voice in my video, so let's start over again. 30. The Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice and will make them see his arm coming down with raging anger and consuming fire. Okay, so what does Lucifer do? He wants to superimpose himself. He's the cult of the flesh. So they change my speech patterns, make you sound like a white guy or a Jew or something, and they change my voice. It's because it's saying the voice, but what is it saying? It's saying the actions, right? The actions. We know that from Psalm 19, for example, where it says the heavens declare the glory of God. You know, the skies pour forth his speech. They proclaim the work of his hands, and so on and so forth. Day after day, it's proclaiming the work of God. It's speaking about God. But it says no voice is heard. They're not actually saying it in human words. Their actions, the heavens' actions, are proclaiming the glory of God. You know, paraphrasing, doing it off the top of my head. Okay, so in Isaiah 30, when it says his arms coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloud burst, thunderstorm, and hail. So again, the Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice, and will see them, and will make them see his. Let me start over again. The Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice, and will make them see his arm coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloud burst, thunderstorm, and hail. So going back to, you know, Luke 12:49, I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. He said, this is the reason I came, to bring fire, right? And some martial art action, right? His arm is coming down with a raging anger, with consuming fire, with cloudburst, thunderstorm, and hail. And we know this from, I believe, Isaiah 59, where it says he wraps himself in zeal as in a cloak. And in Proverbs 34, it says, whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who holds the wind in his fists? Okay, who has wrapped the waters of the earth in a cloak? Okay, the waters are his zeal. Who has wrapped the living waters? Zeal for the Lord has consumed him, right? His enthusiasm, his determination, his dedication, these martial art principles is zeal for the Lord, right? His arms coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloud burst, thunderstorm, and hail. So where does Jesus come back? In the draw. The word is like the word sword. And backwards, D-R-O-W becomes D-R-A-W, the draw. Okay, it's like cryptograms, it's anagrams, it's wordplay. The word is the sword, is the spiritual draw in the martial art order. We know that from Exodus 15:3. The Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name. We know that from David and Goliath. David's victory over Goliath to prove that the whole world will know that there's a God in Israel. 1 Samuel 17. That's what he says. David said, that will show them that there's a God in Israel. So my martial arts are the cloud burst that the Lord's arm is coming down with the consuming fire, which is the martial spirit of God, with thunderstorm and hail. Not a gentle breeze, not a little gentle rain, thunderstorm, hail, right? Raging anger, consuming fire, cloud burst, thunderstorm, hail, right? Smoke, clouds of smoke, okay? Coming out of, what does it say here? Clouds, with burning anger and dense clouds of smoke. His lips are full of wrath, and his tongue is a consuming fire. So it's Hayah, right? It's, martial arts, okay? And they're filming me heavily right now. But anyone who meets me in person, if you see my martial art challenge, you see my martial art videos, even after they edit them, you can see that there's a severe gap between me and the next person, okay? That I'm the top martial artist, and there's a huge gap. Okay, who can proclaim his mighty acts? Psalm 106, I believe it is. Do you see someone skilled in their work? They'll serve before kings and not of officials of low rank. Well, I'm going to run out of time, so let me shoot through this. Okay. The voice of the Lord will shatter Assyria. With his rod, he will strike them down. Every stroke the Lord lays on them with his punishing club will be to the music of timbrels and harps as he fights them in battle with the blows of his arm. Right? Metaphor, but the martial training is not metaphor. Okay, it is actually martial arts that is conveying it, and it's the essence of it which cannot be conveyed through mere speech alone, because the kingdom of heaven is not a matter of talk or mere speech, it's a matter of power. Okay, Topheth, top heat, has been long prepared, it has been made ready for the king. Its fire pit has been made deep and wide with an abundance of fire and wood, and the breath of the Lord like a stream of burning sulfur sets it ablaze. Like hell, lake of fire, stream of burning sulfur. They're being set ablaze. The earth is being transformed into hell. The earth is being transformed into hell. Right? 7 seals. Right? Babylon's magic spell. Right? They're transforming it into hell, and they think they're smart. Okay? Give them enough rope, they hang themselves. The devil and Babylon's spell, okay, causing them to go to hell. Right? We see in Psalm 9 or so, it says the wicked go down to the realm of the dead, all the nations that forget God. We see in Proverbs, Folly, the unruly woman, little does she know that her guests are in the realm of the dead, because she thought ill-gotten gains and stolen water were sweet. Proverbs 9, Proverbs 1, and other proverbs as well. Okay, so we'll have to get to Matthew 26:63. It just talks about how he's coming on the clouds, and Luke 12 in part 2.